On this, joining me live from Tel Aviv is Israeli government spokesperson Tal Heinrich. Tal, welcome.
My pleasure to be joining you.
Let's start with the news of the day. U.S. forces dropping humanitarian aid into Gaza. What is your reaction?
Well, Israel, just like our international partners, we want to see as much humanitarian aid arriving in Gaza and reaching to the civilians who need it the most. You see, Israel has been facilitating the insertion of more than 250,000, I should say, tons of humanitarian aid, equipment, and food and water, on which we placed no restrictions since the beginning of the war, and so far. And we have facilitated these in this kind of an effort which is unprecedented in urban warfare, in the history of modern urban warfare. You know, and this is an enemy zone, just to remind the viewers here, which still holds our stolen people. Our hostages have been there for nearly 5 months.
We're told more than 100 people were killed on Thursday as Israeli forces were delivering humanitarian aid. Some trampled, others shot. What about calls for an investigation into that incident?
Well, of course, the IDF is looking into this incident, but as your reporter just stated correctly, this is a tragedy. And like every other tragedy throughout this war, it should be blamed on Hamas. These are the images that you're showing on the screen right now that Hamas wants to see. Exactly these images. They want the civilian suffering in Gaza. They want increased casualties, civilian casualties in Gaza, because they're stealing humanitarian aid from them. And they hope that by producing these kind of images and civilian suffering, Israel will succumb to international pressure and take the fire for their own vile actions. And by doing so, they hope that we will stop crushing them on the ground. This is not going to happen. Our fight is not with the civilians of Gaza here, of course. Our fight is with Hamas. We will dismantle their terrorist organization and make sure that they no longer have military capabilities to ever hurt us again.
There's also talk of a temporary ceasefire. Let's hear from President Biden, and I'll get your response.
We're trying to work out a deal between Israel and Hamas on the hostages being returned and an immediate ceasefire in Gaza for at least the next 6 weeks, and to allow the surge of aid to the entire Gaza Strip, not just the south, but the entire Gaza Strip.
Are you hopeful there will be a deal?
Well, we always have hope. We want our stolen people back, full stop. And we're investing a lot of efforts, military efforts on the ground and diplomatic efforts behind the scenes. We're pursuing these avenues as well because we want to see another deal that will see the release of the remaining hostages, 134 of them. We have a moral duty to them and to their families. We want to see them reuniting. But you see, Hamas so far has presented terms in the negotiations that have been delusional, as Prime Minister Netanyahu referred to them. And Secretary Blinken, he referred to them as non-starters. We know that what works against Hamas is this combination of very heavy military pressure on the ground, and that what worked back in November. This is how we got that framework that we had in place that saw the release of more than 100 hostages. But we've set very clear red lines for any potential such deal. We said that we will not agree to release thousands of Palestinian terrorists in exchange, and we will not agree to withdraw IDF forces from the Gaza Strip entirely, because that would mean giving up on a total victory in this war.
I want to play for you a clip from Defense Secretary here in the U.S., Lloyd Austin, and I'll get you to respond.
Mr. Secretary, about how many Palestinian women and children have been killed by Israel since October 7th?
It's over 25,000.
Austin's spokeswoman later clarified backing off of that number, but does it trouble you when he cites numbers presented by Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry?
Well, I'm sure that everyone knows, and well, the secretary knows, and everyone, you said it yourself, that it was somewhat backtracked or clarified later that these are numbers provided by Hamas. We do not take any claim, report, number, narrative, propaganda by Hamas at face value. That's a rule of thumb. These are the same terrorists who invaded our borders on October 7th with their death squads and raped and mutilated and burned entire families alive. Of course, we should not believe them.
Tal Heinrich, Israeli government spokesperson, thank you so much for your time and your help today.